If you were advising the No on Proposition 50 movement, is there a picture you would put in front of voters to explain how gross this is?
I would point out that the Speaker pro tem of the Senate drew himself a district. He is drawing a district so he can leave the Senate and go to Congress. Mike McGuire. I mean, there's just one thing after another. It's just gross. Where some of these seats now go, how you're abandoning these people in the North that are real Republican.
Veteran political strategist and communication expert. He is the founder and president of Stutzman Public Affairs, well known for his role as the Deputy Chief of Staff for Communications to former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Rob Stutzman.
Rob Stutzman, welcome to State of Gold.
Thanks for having me on. I'm honored.
Great to be here. We've been pursuing you for a while, so it's great to have you on. You're a guy who's widely respected for your views. You've worked on all sides of politics in California. And of course, the oxygen's been sucked out of the room now with the whole gerrymandering battle. I guess you could call it Trump v. Newsom. Is this anything but a naked power grab on Newsom's part? How would you view this? How should voters view this?
I mean, let me put it this way. I think the governor has a reasonable pitch to make, I think, in order to curb a power grab mid-decade by Republicans. Yeah, I think, and we're going to see if people will buy into that pitch, but it's extremely partisan. And what really is also going on here, either primarily or at least at the same time, is of course the Newsom for President campaign.
Of course.
So what Newsom's really doing here is capitalizing on, I think, a great opportunity that's been given to him, which is to fight Trump in an authentic way. A lot of Democrats trying to find their voice and how to fight Trump, but they really don't have a real issue to fight him over. And this gives Newsom something real to fight Trump on and try to ignite a Democrat base that has just been completely demoralized. And at least initially, I think he's succeeding at that. The problem is, I think, to sell this to voters, Californians have traditionally soured on Newsom when he is overtly political or appears that he's just promoting his own political career. So I think to pull this off, he's also going to have to be making it really clear that he's still doing something on the day job as governor.
Yes, doing something on the day job. Well, that to me, that case is very hard to make. Given that California's in the toilet on like every metric that actually matters.
It's a tough record.
It's a tough record. So I don't know how to ask this. If you were advising him right now, I'm asking almost like I'm supporting now the other side because I'm virulently no on Proposition 50. I mean, I God's intervention, please. But if you were advising Newsom on how to be relevant on his record, what would you actually tell him?
Well, I think it's tough. I think you have to hide it.
Okay.
I mean, the record's bad, and he's lame duck. I mean, he is now inside the last 2 years, almost inside the last 2 years of his last term. And the big issues he's had to turn around, such as homelessness, aren't being turned around. He's made some pivots that are making some progress, maybe, but why didn't he do that from the beginning? Building housing, way too late. We did sequel reform for infill this year. Well, why didn't we do it 6 years ago if that was what was needed to be done? The budget deficit is awful, increase in spending of 80-some-odd% since he's been governor. Bragged about a surplus a couple years ago. We didn't build anything with it. Now we have deficit. I mean, it is a really hard record.
It's a tough record
to defend. So if I were him, I would deflect from it.
Right. So he is a master of shape-shifting and deflection. And of course, a few months ago, he was tacking to the right. He was doing his podcast, not a very good podcaster, but he had Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon, and we thought he was moving to the center. And now, of course, I think he's done a great job of taking up this mantle of the left, which is really his ambition to align with 2028. And it just seems that everything that Newsom does is through the lens of positioning for president and has always been.
Yes.
Maybe not the moment he was on the leopard skin rug with Guilfoyle and some of those embarrassing moments and the affair and just sort of all of the offenses, but it's always been 2028 and California's on fire.
It's always been ambition. That's
always been ambition.
And it was interesting. You go back to how the year started in California, and you're right. He had completely pivoted politically. He was doing bro podcasts with, MAGA influencers, right? Looking for that softer, gentler approach. Then the fires happened in LA, and he goes back into something he did very well during COVID, which is not to be political. and to try to extend a hand to President Trump and work with him. And they actually did that during COVID. So he hit that gear. And now this has completely changed. Again, I think it's an opportunity, but that's been given to him, and he's capitalizing on it. Trump's given him this opportunity. I think they really appreciate each other, actually, be my guess. And now he's making the most of it.
Yeah.
But it's complete whiplash to what he was doing 6 months ago.
Right. And totally, in my view, counter to the interests of California. But let's talk about this Proposition 50. The legislature, in the dark, voted to have this ballot initiative. It's going to cost upwards of $250 million when the state's got a massive deficit. I mean, it's down is up and up is down. So we're marching between now and November 4th. If you were advising the No on Proposition 50 movement, how would you advise them to shotgun educate the public to vote no?
Well, so show some of the clips from committee that we saw in the legislature where Democrats were basically in their Sergeant Schultz, I know nothing routine, because it highlights what is true about gerrymandering, which is it's politicians drawing their own districts, and it's their own self-interest, and it's all overtly political, which some of the Democrats actually admitted. I would point out that the Speaker pro tem of the Senate, President pro tem of the Senate, drew himself a district. He is drawing a district so he can leave the Senate and go to Congress. Mike McGuire. I mean, there's just one thing after another. It's just gross. Where some of these seats now go, how you're abandoning these people in the North that are real Republican, no matter what you may think of the state of Jefferson, part of California, they're now being gerrymandered into Marin County.
Right.
It's all gross. I would keep showing how self-interested, cynical this is, and that at the end of the day, two wrongs don't make a right. How do you teach your children that this is what should be done to protect American democracy?
Right.
I just don't think it equates with where most people are that aren't hardcore partisans.
Yeah. So if a picture is worth 1,000 words, is there a picture you would put in front of voters to explain how gross this is, to use your term?
I think there's some districts that you can now show. I think of the Central Valley district Adam Gray's in, which now shoots straight up into Stockton.
To Stockton.
To grab more Democrats in Stockton. I'm not sure, it doesn't totally make Adam safe, but it makes it more Democrat by a few points. There are things like that you can point out to them that just will confirm, like, yeah, they're just doing this to be political. Now, Newsom could say, yeah, we're being political because Trump's being political in Texas.
That's right.
So you still at some point have to overcome this notion that, like, I would encourage the proponent or the opponents to point out that, look, you really think they're going to give this power back to the Independent Commission? You don't think they're going to be right back when they do this again? You don't think they're going to come for the Legislative Independent Commission next? And they're all going to say they have to do it to save democracy because of the Republicans.
Right. So let's zoom back to 2008. You were the communications director for government.
I was outside of government then.
You were outside,
but did help with those campaigns.
Corrected.
That Mr. Munger. Yeah.
Corrected. Okay. So you were a part of the campaign to create the Independent Commission.
We worked with Mr. Munger. Funded those efforts, and yes, we worked with. I think it was with the California Chamber of Commerce back then.
So you were there at the conception of this idea of an independent commission.
Well, the idea had been around for a while. So Schwarzenegger, earlier in his governorship, had been promoting this idea, and it's something he latched onto very early in his gubernatorial career. That was a political reform that he wanted to make his real signature move. He thought it was very important.
Educate people who are not educated on this. Why is the concept so important to have and sustain this independent commission in California?
Well, it's what I said earlier. Otherwise, politicians draw their own districts, and this is what happens in most states. We've seen it. Illinois is an egregious Democrat, example of it. North Carolina is an egregious Republican example of it, and what they're about to do in Texas, egregious Republican example of it.
They've done it in Texas.
Yeah. California, I came up in California politics under egregious gerrymandered maps drawn by the Democrats that were in power. It's not an ideological issue. It's a political power issue. And no matter what political party you're in or what your ideology is, you're interested in drawing your own district and picking your own constituents.
Right.
That's what is so broken about it. This idea of, especially the House of Representatives, a house, the citizens' house, but these people are actually picking their districts, so they really don't have to be accountable or be vulnerable to voters ever at the ballot box. That is why an independent commission isn't perfect, but it improves on the process because it doesn't let the politicians draw their own districts.
Right. The people choose the politicians versus the other way around.
And you can imagine the horse trading that goes on. I mean, it just breeds corruption.
Of course. Yeah, well said. Let's zoom out for a minute and talk about California politics. We're marching to November 4th, of course, this very expensive ballot initiative on Proposition 50, which we've talked about. Then we're marching to the gubernatorial and the statewide November of 2026. How would you assess where we are politically in the state right now?
Well, I think so. The state's going through some political realignment, like the rest of the country has. Working class voters are moving to the right. The last election in November demonstrated this. There was a substantial shift, particularly in inland counties, from Trump 20 to Trump 24. Even in urban LA, and what you're saying, oh, there's a big Latino vote that was moving, which is true. I like to describe it as working class voters were moving towards Republicans at the top of the ticket. They happen to be Latino. So that is happening in California. And the Democrats came out of the election last year, remember, somewhat chastened, because they understood that they were failing on this affordability issue, and they got to be careful. They need to do something about it. They're into this legislative session now that's about to end, and they haven't really figured out what to do about it. It's too hard to do what they have to do about it, because you have to redo all the primarily climate law construct of regulatory hurdles that increase our energy costs, forcing refineries to close, et cetera.
And they also just voted for CEQA reform and
A
went
little
all in
bit,
on that.
yeah.
And now they've got a
They did some CEQA reform. The governor pushed through on that, really against the progressive legislative,
right.
skew of the Democrats that run the legislature. But again, as I said earlier, why didn't you do that 6 years ago? So they're trying to fiddle at the edges. The big push on fixing affordability is going to probably come with the next governor, if it comes at all. But that's still defining our politics. Gas isn't super expensive this summer, so it hasn't been as tense, but electricity rates are going up. People are feeling the crunch. Rents are still high. The affordability issue still looms for Democrats. And I think it's the primary issue hanging over the governor's race next year.
100%. I mean, I think that if you look at all the metrics, California is the bottom of almost everything. It's really a crying shame. Affordability, upward mobility, energy, housing.
We have high unemployment in the context of other states.
We're the worst. Actually, U.S. News had us, I think, second worst, but I thought we were worst. We're bottom of the barrel. We're competing for worst, which is a crying shame. And I actually think that, Republicans need to adopt the Mamdani strategy, not obviously the policies, and his strategy, which was right on and brilliant, is a very simple platform focused on affordability. And unfortunately, he can't deliver on those things. But I think a populist message focused on affordability is what needs to change California politics. I mean, this is the time, if there were a time, I think.
This is how you're going to break out of the pack if you're a Democrat. Right. So Antonio Villaraigosa has figured some of this out, and he's touching on it. He's talking about affordability. He wrote an op-ed opposing South Coast Air Quality Management District rules that would have essentially led to banning of natural gas appliances, which the district, by the way, voted down, which it never votes stuff like that down, that the staff pushes on them. So, Antonio's kind of figured it out. Well, some others, I think if Rick Caruso is to run, that'll be a largely, his themes.
Right.
And so, and then Republicans are talking about it, but I think even Democrats have a huge opportunity here if they can figure out how to be genuine on affordability.
Yeah. How do you rate Bianco and Hilton so far?
I think they're doing, well, I think Hilton's doing a really good job of getting policy out there and being substantive. I think Bianco, I need to see another gear. I think he kind of has this natural sugar high benefit you get from being law enforcement. But I heard him ask some time ago, well, what do we know about affordability? And he goes, well, the issue isn't affordability, it's public safety. It's like, well, it needs to be more multidimensional than that. I think, I've told Steve this, it's going to be difficult. I don't think Republicans are going to win the governorship. And there's a part of me that we have this top two primary, and if you can get two different flavors of Democrat in a runoff, I actually think that'd be very healthy.
Interesting
for California.
So you don't think they siphon each other off, and you get a Democrat and a Republican?
It could happen, and I don't think the field is set. I think other people could come in. Grinnell says he's not running. There's room for other Republicans to get in. There's going to be other Republicans on the ballot. They'll take 5-6% of the vote. Naturally, but if Hilton and Bianco are in there at taking 15% each, I could see two Democrats making the runoff.
Got it. All right, we're going to finish with some rapid fire,
okay,
Rob.
Let's do it.
You're king for a day. The single biggest thing you do to fix California?
Well, I touched on it. I would fix our crippling environmental laws. That's not to be anti-environmentalist, but we have to get back to being able to build things, and we have to make energy affordable. And I would get back away from this ideology. It's funny, environmentalists accuse, the climate deniers of denying science, which I think we're a little bit past at this point, but they really don't apply any science or economics to what those solutions to be. So if I was king, those are the things I would tackle.
Yeah, makes sense. California leader, past or present, that you respect, and why?
George Deukmejian. So Governor George Deukmejian in the 80s, he was from Long Beach, state senator, was attorney general. I interned for George Deukmejian. I was 18 years old, delivered the mail in the governor's office. And I think George Deukmejian was a type of politician that we desperately need again. Very focused on public service. At that time, it had a lot to do with public safety, which might be timely again. But George Deukmejian, who's kind of quiet man that doesn't get mentioned a whole lot, is who comes to mind.
That's a good poll, in it for the right reasons. What do people misunderstand about California and California politics?
Oh, I think they do misunderstand that there's such a nutty left state. It's not. It's not. If you look at what happens at the ballot box, it's a very centrist state. It's fairly fiscally conservative. We protect Prop 13. We have affirmed the death penalty. We have referended on behalf of the business community things like no cash bail that would have destroyed that whole industry and been a real public safety problem. So and again, that shift to the right that we've seen, I don't think people quite understand it. And the other thing is, to California, it's not north-south, it's coastal and inland.
Right.
It's if your county touches the coast or if it's landlocked. Those are the two Californias.
Yeah, makes sense. Last two, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is that I think the pendulum is beginning to swing. I think we've seen it swing on the crime issue, like Prop 36, which the governor was so wrong on, said he didn't recognize the state when 70% polled in favor of it, passed in every county. That pendulum swinging. I see the pendulum starting to swing on these energy issues I'm talking about to get back to affordability.
Right.
So sure, I have hope. You always have to have hope.
Yeah, agree with that. All right, last one. California is fill in the blank.
California is wasting itself. Absolutely wasting itself. We could lead on so many more important issues than just demonstrating how to ruin an economy with bad climate policies. We should be affordable. We should be building. We should be innovating on how we're using water. We should be finding new innovative ways to bring water, to desalinate water, to bring renewable energy to market without being able to build the grid that requires it. So it's it's funny. The popular Democrat thing has been the abundance movement, to which Republicans are like, well, duh. We've always been about that.
Yes, very well said. Rob, thank you so much.
You bet.
Appreciate your time, your voice, and all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.